The deep space station Argus 9 floated in the darkness of the Orion sector, forgotten by time. It was once a proud Terran research facility, but after the last Great War, it was abandoned. Now, only scavengers and explorers dared to visit, searching for lost technology. Captain Elric Voss and his crew had spent weeks exploring dead stations like this one. They were part of the Galactic Union Recovery Team, a group that searched for old human technology before it could fall into the wrong hands. Most of the time, they found nothing but rusted metal and broken machines. But today was different. "Captain, you need to see this," said Lena Carter, the team's engineer. Her voice trembled as she pointed her scanner at a massive object buried deep inside the facility. Elric stepped forward, shining his light on the thing before them. It was huge, a towering war machine, almost 30 meters tall, covered in thick black armor. Strange symbols and faded markings covered its body, but one name stood out clearly on its chest. Project Aegis. "What is this thing?" whispered Drake Mendez, the team's weapons expert. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by unease. Lena's scanner flickered wildly. "I don't know, but the readings don't make sense." Elric narrowed his eyes. He had seen Terran war machines before, but nothing like this. It looked ancient, yet untouched by time. There were no rust marks, no battle scars, only silence. "Is it active?" he asked. Lena shook her head. "No power readings. It's dormant." Drake exhaled in relief. "Good. Let's leave it that way." Elric wasn't so sure. Something about this war machine felt wrong, like it was waiting. Then the lights flickered. A deep, low hum filled the air, vibrating through the metal walls. The machine's armor plates shifted slightly, as if stretching after a long sleep. Elric's heart pounded. "Lena, I didn't do anything," she shouted, backing away. The scanner in her hands went crazy, numbers spiking beyond what was possible. The machine was waking up. "Back to the ship," Elric ordered. His team didn't hesitate. They turned and ran, their footsteps echoing in the empty station. Behind them, the war machine's eyes glowed blue. A weapon without a master. By the time they reached their ship, the Orion star, Elric was already sending a distress signal to the Galactic Union. "This is Captain Elric Voss of the recovery team. We found an unknown Terran war machine inside Argus 9. It's waking up. We need immediate." A deep voice interrupted him. "Signal detected." The ship's systems froze. Screens glitched, lights flickered, and the engine shut down. Lena gasped. "It hacked us. In seconds." Drake gritted his teeth. "We are so doomed." Elric forced himself to stay calm. "We don't know that yet." Outside, the war machine moved, not like a robot, like something alive. Its massive frame unfolded with slow, deliberate motions, joints hissing as they adjusted after years of stillness. Then it spoke. "Human distress signal detected. Priority high." Elric's breath caught in his throat. The voice wasn't metallic or robotic. It was clear, deep, almost human. Lena whispered, "It understands us." The war machine turned its glowing eyes toward the ship. The crew braced for an attack. Instead, it scanned them. Then it spoke again. "Identify. Friend or foe." Elric took a shaky breath. He had no idea what kind of machine this was. No one did. But something told him that the next few words would decide their fate. He stepped forward and answered, "We are friends." For a moment, nothing happened. The machine was completely still. Then its eyes dimmed slightly, as if considering his words. Friend acknowledged. The ship's systems suddenly came back online. Power was restored, and all functions were normal, as if nothing had happened. Elric exchanged a look with Lena and Drake. This was not just a war machine. It was something more. And now it was awake. The war machine stood still, its glowing blue eyes staring at the Orion star. The silence felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. Captain Elric Voss gripped the controls of his ship tightly, his heart still racing from what had just happened. Project Aegis was awake, and it had just accepted them as friends. Elric glanced at Lena Carter, the team's engineer. "Can you scan it again?" Lena hesitated before pressing a few buttons. The scanner flickered, trying to analyze the machine, but the data made no sense. "I don't understand," she muttered. "It's made of an unknown alloy. No records in the database, and its power source." She stopped, frowning. "What about it?" asked Drake Mendez, the weapons expert. Lena swallowed hard. "It's infinite." Drake snorted. "That's impossible." Elric wasn't so sure anymore. "Whatever this thing is, it's not normal." Then, without warning, a distress signal flashed on their screen. //URGNT Human colony under ATTK / location Orion's Gate / Elric's stomach dropped. Orion's Gate was a small human colony on the edge of Terran space. It was home to thousands of people, farmers, scientists, families, and now it was in danger. Lena's voice was tense. "The distress call is coming from the colony's defense station. They're under attack from an unknown fleet." Drake's expression darkened. "Unknown fleet? That's never good." Elric turned back to the console. "Can we jump to their location?" Lena shook her head. "Not in time. We're too far." A deep mechanical voice interrupted them. "Orion's Gate. Human colony. Threat detected." Elric's breath caught in his throat. The war machine had heard the distress call. It was reacting. Then, before anyone could speak, Project Aegis moved. The machine takes action. The war machine lifted its massive arms. A faint hum filled the air as energy surged through its body. Then, in a flash of blue light, it vanished. Elric jumped to his feet. Where did it go? Lena frantically checked the scanners. "I don't know. It just disappeared from all readings." Drake muttered, "That thing can teleport." Elric clenched his fists. Where had the machine gone? Then Lena gasped, "Captain, the distress signal from Orion's Gate just changed." Elric leaned over her console. The screen flickered, showing a live feed from the colony's defense cameras. The view was chaos. Enemy ships filled the sky, firing on the colony below. Salvator Dominion warships. Elric's blood ran cold. The Salvator Dominion was one of the most powerful alien factions in the galaxy. They were ruthless conquerors, known for destroying civilizations. And now, they were attacking a defenseless human colony. But then, something appeared on the screen. A shadow. It dropped from the sky like a comet, landing in the middle of the battlefield with a thunderous impact. Dust and debris flew everywhere. When the dust settled, Project Aegis stood among the ruins. Elric's eyes widened. It went to defend the colony. Lena whispered, "It's protecting humans." The war begins. The Salvator warships turned their guns toward the war machine. Energy cannons charged, glowing bright red. Then, they fired. The blasts hit Project Aegis directly, causing a massive explosion that shook the ground. For a moment, there was only smoke. The colony's defense cameras flickered. Then, as the dust cleared, the machine stepped forward. Completely unarmed, the Salvator fleet hesitated. Then they fired again. This time, Project Aegis moved. It raised its arms, absorbing the blasts as if they were nothing. Blue energy surged across its body. Then, in an instant, it returned fire. A single energy blast shot from its core, striking the lead Salvator warship. The ship exploded instantly. The other Salvator ships panicked. They had never seen anything like this before. Their shields were useless. Their weapons were ineffective. And Project Aegis was just getting started. It launched into the sky, moving faster than something its size should be able to. In seconds, it was among the enemy fleet, tearing through ships like paper. Elric, Lena, and Drake watched in stunned silence. One machine was fighting an entire invasion fleet, and it was winning. A new fear in the galaxy. The battle didn't last long. Within minutes, the Salvator ships were gone, either destroyed or retreating at full speed. Project Aegis landed back on the ground, standing tall among the ruins. Then, for the second time, it spoke. Threat eliminated. Humanity is safe. Elric exhaled, his mind racing. The war machine wasn't just a weapon. It was something more. Something the galaxy had never seen before. And now, everyone would know it existed. The battlefield was silent. Where there had once been fire and destruction, there was now only the towering figure of Project Aegis, standing motionless among the wreckage of the Salvator fleet. The once powerful warships of the Dominion lay in ruins, shattered by a machine that should not have existed. And yet, it was real. Captain Elric Voss and his crew aboard the Orion Star could only watch in disbelief. That thing destroyed an entire fleet by itself, whispered Drake Mendez, the weapons expert. Lena Carter, the team's engineer, was still staring at the scanner, her hands shaking. It didn't even take damage, she said. Not a single scratch. Elric gritted his teeth. He had seen many battles, but nothing like this. Nothing in the entire Galactic Union had ever been this powerful. Then Project Aegis spoke again. Humanity is safe. Mission complete. Elric hesitated, then pressed the ship's communicator. This is Captain Elric Voss. Can you hear me? For a moment, there was silence. Then, the war machine responded. Confirmed. Your friend. Communication accepted. Lena gasped. It understands us. Drake crossed his arms. Yeah, but the question is, what is it? Before Elric could answer, an alert flashed on their screen. / incoming transmission from Orion's gate / Elric quickly opened the channel. A small, flickering hologram appeared. Governor Elias Brand, the leader of the Orion's Gate colony. His face was pale, his eyes wide with shock. Captain Voss, the governor said, his voice shaking. What just happened? Elric took a deep breath. Governor, I'll explain everything. But first, are your people safe? The governor nodded quickly. Yes. Thanks to whatever that is. He pointed at Project Aegis, still standing outside the colony like an unbreakable guardian. Elric glanced at the war machine. It had arrived in time to save thousands of innocent lives. But there was one question no one could answer. Where had it come from? The Salvator return. Before anyone could say another word, a warning alarm echoed across the colony. Lena's eyes widened as she checked the radar. Captain, we have a problem. Elric's stomach tightened. How big of a problem? Lena turned to face him, fear in her voice. The Salvator are coming back. And this time, they've brought an entire war fleet. Drake clenched his fists. They must be furious after what happened. Elric knew he was right. The Salvator were one of the most powerful alien empires in the galaxy. Their pride had been wounded. Now, they were returning with everything they had. Number of ships? Elric asked. Lena swallowed hard. At least 100 warships, maybe more. Elric closed his eyes for a brief moment. This wasn't just an attack anymore. This was an invasion. The colony's defenses wouldn't hold. The Orion Star was a small exploration vessel, not a warship. They had no chance against an entire fleet. But then, a deep voice echoed through the communicator. Threat detected. Engaging combat mode. Project Aegis had spoken. Elric turned to the window just in time to see the war machine lift off the ground. Blue energy pulsed around its massive frame as it ascended into the sky, preparing for battle. Lena's voice trembled. It's going to fight them again. Drake let out a low whistle. The Salvator won't know what hit them. The battle begins. The Salvator fleet arrived in a storm of fire and destruction. Their warships filled the sky, blocking out the stars as they rained energy blasts onto the colony below. But before their attacks could hit, Project Aegis moved. The war machine darted through space with impossible speed, weaving through enemy fire like a living creature. Its armor glowed blue as it absorbed energy from the enemy attacks, converting it into its own power. Then it struck. Aegis raised its arm, and a pulse of pure energy exploded outward, ripping through the enemy warships like paper. 5 Salvator ships were destroyed in an instant. The Salvator fleet fired everything they had. But nothing worked. Project Aegis was unstoppable. One by one, the enemy ships fell. Some tried to escape. Others fought desperately, only to be torn apart by the war machine's advanced weapons. Elric and his crew watched in stunned silence. "This isn't a war," Lena whispered. "It's a one-sided massacre." Drake shook his head. No wonder this thing was hidden. It's too powerful. If anyone controlled it, they could conquer the galaxy. Elric exhaled. "That's what I'm afraid of." Victory and fear. It took less than 20 minutes for the Salvator fleet to be completely destroyed. The war machine returned to the colony, landing silently in the ruins of the battlefield. It stood there, unmoving, like a titan from ancient legends. Then it spoke once more. "Mission complete. Humanity is protected." Elric felt a shiver run down his spine. The war machine had saved them. It had defended humanity. But now the entire galaxy would know what it was capable of. And Elric knew one thing for certain. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The dust had settled. Smoke still rose from the wreckage of the Salvator warships. The battlefield was silent, except for the distant hum of Project Aegis standing tall, its glowing blue eyes scanning the ruins of the enemy fleet. Inside the Orion Star, Captain Elric Voss and his crew were frozen in place. The scene before them was impossible. One machine had defeated an entire invasion force. Drake Mendez, the weapons expert, let out a low whistle. I don't know whether to be impressed or terrified. Lena Carter, the ship's engineer, was still staring at her scanner. "It took no damage," she whispered. "Not even a dent. How is that possible?" Elric didn't have an answer. Project Aegis shouldn't exist, and yet it had just wiped out a fleet of one of the most feared alien empires in the galaxy. Then the machine spoke. "Threat eliminated. Humanity is safe." Elric took a deep breath and pressed the ship's communicator. "Project Aegis, can you hear me?" A brief silence followed. Then the deep mechanical voice returned. "Confirmed. You are friend. Communication accepted." Lena gasped. "It's responding." Drake leaned forward. "Ask it something important." "Like, what is it?" Elric hesitated before speaking. "Project Aegis, who built you?" For a moment, there was only silence. Then the machine's voice echoed again. "Data restricted. Information classified." Lena frowned. "Classified? By who?" Drake shook his head. "I don't like this. Something tells me we're not supposed to know." Before Elric could respond, a warning alarm rang through the ship. "Incoming Tyrannis from Orion's gate." Elric quickly accepted the call. A hologram flickered to life, revealing Governor Elias Brand, the leader of the Orion's Gate colony. His face was pale, his hands shaking. "Captain Voss," he said, his voice uneven. What just happened?" Elric exhaled. "Governor, we'll explain everything. But first, are your people safe?" The governor nodded quickly. "Yes, thanks to that thing." He glanced nervously at Project Aegis, which still stood motionless outside the colony. Elric turned to Lena. "Scan for any more Salvator ships." Lena's fingers flew over the controls. Then her face turned white. "Captain, we have a problem." Elric's stomach tightened. How big of a problem? Lena swallowed. The Salvator are coming back. And this time, they brought a fleet. The Salvator's revenge. The radar filled with red dots as hundreds of warships entered orbit. The Salvator weren't done. They must be furious after what happened, Drake muttered. Elric clenched his fists. The Salvator Dominion was one of the most powerful alien factions in the galaxy. They didn't take defeat lightly. Now they were bringing an entire armada to erase the colony from existence. They're preparing an orbital bombardment, Lena warned. If they fire, the colony will be gone. Elric knew their ship was no match for an entire fleet. This was a death sentence. But before he could give the order to retreat, Project Aegis moved. Threat detected. Engaging combat mode. The machine goes to war. Without hesitation, Project Aegis lifted off the ground, blue energy pulsing from its core. It shot into the sky at impossible speed, heading straight for the enemy fleet. The Salvator warships opened fire. Energy blasts rained down, lighting up the darkness of space. But Project Aegis was faster. It weaved through the enemy attacks like a ghost, dodging everything thrown at it. Then it counterattacked. A single pulse of blue energy ripped through the fleet, destroying 3 warships instantly. The Salvator panicked. They had come expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had met a force beyond their understanding. One by one, their warships fell. Some exploded in brilliant flashes of light, while others were torn apart as Aegis cut through them like a blade. Lena's voice was barely a whisper. It's unstoppable. Drake shook his head. We're watching the most powerful weapon in history. If anyone controls this thing, they control the galaxy. Elric wasn't sure if that thought made him feel safer or more afraid. A warning to the galaxy. It took less than 20 minutes for the battle to end. The Salvator fleet was gone. Project Aegis returned to the colony, landing silently. Then it spoke once more. Mission complete. Humanity is protected. Elric let out a slow breath. They had won. But his relief didn't last long. A new alert flashed on their screens, an encrypted message sent across the entire galaxy. Lena read it aloud, her voice shaking. To all sentient species, a new power has emerged, a weapon beyond comprehension. Proceed with caution. Drake's face darkened. That's not good. Elric closed his eyes. The secret was out. The entire galaxy now knew what Project Aegis was capable of. And soon, they would come looking for it. The battle was over, but silence filled the Orion Star's bridge. Project Aegis had done the impossible. One machine had destroyed an entire Salvator war fleet. The colony was safe, but the cost of this victory was something no one had considered. Because now, the entire galaxy knew. Lena Carter's fingers hovered over the control panel, her eyes scanning the encrypted transmission that had just been sent across every major communication channel in the universe. She swallowed hard. Captain, this message, it's a warning. Elric Voss leaned forward. His gut told him this wasn't just bad news. It was disastrous. Read it. Lena took a breath before speaking. To all sentient species, a new power has emerged, a weapon beyond comprehension. Proceed with caution. Drake Mendez let out a low whistle. Well, that's one way to make an entrance. Elric ran a hand through his hair. Who sent it? Lena shook her head. No idea. It's not from us. It wasn't from Aegis either. Drake frowned. So someone else was watching. Elric's jaw tightened. That was the only explanation. Someone, somewhere, had been monitoring the battle. And now they had announced Project Aegis to the entire galaxy. The galaxy reacts. Far beyond Orion's gate, in the great halls of the Galactic Union, diplomats and leaders from hundreds of species gathered in urgent meetings. The Salvator Dominion was furious. Their once feared warships had been reduced to debris. They demanded answers. They demanded revenge. The Zephyrians, the scholars of the galaxy, were alarmed. A machine of such power should not exist. It defied every law of warfare. The Korthek Empire, warlords of the Outer Rim, were intrigued. If such a weapon could be controlled, it could mean absolute dominance. And the humans, they were just as surprised as everyone else. Earth's leaders were bombarded with questions. Where had Project Aegis come from? Was it a secret human project? Was humanity hiding more of these machines? The galaxy was afraid. And when people were afraid, war was never far behind. Return to Earth. Back in Orion's gate, the Orion star received an urgent transmission. / priority order from Earth Command / Elric opened the message. A hologram flickered to life, revealing Admiral Julian Reyes, one of the highest-ranking officers in the United Earth Fleet. His expression was grim. Captain Voss, you and your crew are ordered to return to Earth immediately. Elric crossed his arms. I assume this is about Aegis. Reyes nodded. The galaxy is in chaos. We need to get ahead of this. Bring Project Aegis back to Earth before someone else tries to take it. Lena hesitated. And if Aegis doesn't want to go? Reyes' face darkened. Then you'll have to convince it. Elric sighed. He had expected this. The galaxy was moving fast. If they didn't act now, they could lose control of the situation. He turned to the communicator. Aegis, do you copy? A brief pause. Then the deep mechanical voice responded. Confirmed. Awaiting orders. Elric exhaled in relief. We need to go to Earth. Will you come with us? For a long moment, there was silence. Then, Aegis spoke. Earth is home. Aegis will return. Drake smirked. Well, that was easy. Elric wasn't so sure. Nothing about this would be easy. The journey begins. The Orion star and Project Aegis left Orion's gate, setting a course for Earth. But before they had even left the system, their sensors picked up movement. Lena's voice tensed. Captain, we have company. Elric turned to the scanner. Multiple ships were following them. Drake cursed under his breath. That didn't take long. Lena's fingers danced over the controls. They're not Salvator. Elric narrowed his eyes. Who are they? Lena's expression darkened. No identification codes, no official markings. They're either mercenaries or worse. Drake finished her sentence. Pirates. Elric clenched his jaw. The galaxy wasn't just watching. It was hunting. They had to reach Earth. But first, they had to survive the journey. The Orion star cruised through the cold vastness of space, Earth still days away. The journey was supposed to be quiet. Instead, it was a chase. Elric Voss sat in the captain's chair, eyes locked on the radar screen. The unknown ships were still following them. Lena Carter, the ship's engineer, was tense. They're holding formation, staying just out of range. They don't want to be seen clearly. Drake Mendez, the weapons expert, leaned back and crossed his arms. Pirates, bounty hunters, mercenaries. Does it really matter? They all want the same thing. Elric nodded. Project Aegis. Ever since the machine had revealed itself to the galaxy, the balance of power had been shattered. Everyone wanted Aegis, some to control it, some to destroy it. And right now, someone was closing in. A silent threat. Lena frowned at the scanner. They're getting closer. Elric didn't like this. If they wanted to attack, they would have done it already. Instead, they were waiting. They might be scanning us, Drake said, looking for weaknesses. Lena shook her head, or waiting for us to drop our guard. The ship's communicator suddenly crackled to life. Orion Star, this is Captain Drell of the Black Fang Syndicate. Elric's jaw tightened. Pirates. Drell's voice was smooth, confident. We have no interest in fighting. Hand over the machine, and you can leave in peace. Drake laughed. Yeah, that sounds like a lie. Elric didn't respond immediately. Fighting was risky, But surrender was not an option. He pressed the comm button. "Sorry, Captain Drill. Not happening." Drill sighed. "That's a shame. But don't worry. We'll make this quick." The trap. The pirate ships suddenly accelerated, breaking formation. Lina's fingers flew across the control panel. "They're trying to surround us." Elric shouted. "Evasive maneuvers." "Drake, get the weapons online." The ship rumbled as the first enemy shots whizzed past them. The battle had begun. Drake locked onto the nearest enemy, firing. Bright laser beams tore through space, hitting one of the pirate ships. It spun out of control before exploding. But there were more. 3 ships darted around them, firing relentlessly. The Orion Star's shields flashed with impact. "We can't outrun them." Lina yelled. "They're too fast." Elric's mind raced. They needed an advantage, something only they had. His eyes landed on the screen displaying Project Aegis. The machine was still standing in the cargo bay, silent, waiting. Elric opened the internal comms. "Aegis, we're under attack." The deep mechanical voice responded immediately. "Confirmed. Threat detected." Elric took a breath. "Will you help us?" For a moment, Aegis didn't answer. Then the ship shook violently as something moved, unleashing the war machine. The Orion Star's cargo bay doors opened. And then Project Aegis launched into space. The pirates didn't know what hit them. Aegis moved faster than any ship. It shot forward, dodging enemy fire with impossible precision. Then it attacked. One pirate ship was cut in half before it even had a chance to react. Another tried to flee. Aegis caught it and crushed it like paper. Drill's voice returned to the comm, now filled with fear. "Don't you wait. We can make a deal." Elric's face was cold. "You made your choice." Aegis finished the battle in seconds. The last enemy ship exploded in a flash of light. And then, silence. The threat was gone. The machine speaks. Aegis returned to the ship, landing smoothly in the cargo bay. Elric stared at the screen. The galaxy saw this thing as a weapon. But was that all it was? He pressed the comm button again. "Aegis, do you enjoy fighting?" A long pause. Then, Aegis answered. "Aegis fights to protect." Lina frowned. "Protect who?" The machine's glowing eyes flickered. "Humanity." Drake exhaled. "Well, at least we're on the right side." Elric wasn't so sure. The pirates were desperate, but they were just the beginning. Bigger threats were coming, and he had a feeling the next battle wouldn't be so easy. The Orion Star continued its journey toward Earth, the wreckage of pirate ships fading into the endless darkness of space. But Captain Elric Voss knew this wasn't over. The pirates were desperate, but they weren't the real danger. The real threat was coming. Lina Carter, the ship's engineer, was scanning the systems. Shields are holding steady. No more damage from the attack. Drake Mendez, the weapons expert, leaned back in his chair. "Yeah, but how long until the next one?" Elric didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the cargo bay monitor, where Project Aegis stood silently. A weapon beyond comprehension. A machine that shouldn't exist. And yet it did. A message from the unknown. The silence was broken by a sudden alert. "Incoming transmission. Origin unknown." Lina's fingers flew over the controls. "Captain, someone's hailing us." No identification. Drake raised an eyebrow. "Think it's more pirates." Elric wasn't sure. Opened the channel. The screen flickered to life. A hooded figure appeared. Their face was mostly hidden, except for glowing yellow eyes. Their voice was calm, but powerful. "You are traveling with something that does not belong to you." Elric felt his muscles tense. "Who are you?" The figure ignored the question. "The galaxy is watching, Captain Voss. You are carrying a weapon that could change everything. You will not reach Earth." Lina's hands clenched. "Is that a threat?" The figure tilted their head slightly. It is a warning. Drake scoffed. Great. More people who think they can tell us what to do. Elric leaned forward. What do you want with Aegis? The figure's voice remained calm. To keep balance. Then, the transmission cut off. A heavy silence followed. Lena exhaled. That wasn't creepy at all. Elric had seen many things in his time as a captain, but something about that message felt different. Whoever that was, they weren't just another group after Aegis. They knew something. And Elric had a bad feeling they weren't bluffing. Trouble ahead. Lena's voice interrupted his thoughts. Captain, long-range sensors just picked up something. A fleet. Elric's heart sank. How big? Lena hesitated before answering. Huge. Drake cursed under his breath. Here we go again. Elric turned to the screen. A group of 20 warships had entered their sector, and they were heading straight for them. Lena scanned their signature. They're not Salvator, not pirates either. Elric's grip tightened on his chair. Then who are they? Lena's face paled. Sir, they're human. Elric's stomach twisted. The United Earth Fleet. Drake frowned. Why would our own people send warships after us? Elric didn't know, but there was only one reason Earth's military would come out here with that much firepower. They were coming for Aegis. A choice to make. The Orion Star's communicator lit up. Incoming transmission. United Earth Fleet. Elric hesitated for just a second before opening the channel. A stern-looking admiral appeared on the screen. His uniform was crisp, his expression unreadable. Captain Voss, you are ordered to stand down immediately. Elric stayed calm. On what grounds? The admiral's voice was firm. You are in possession of an unregistered, unauthorized military asset. You are to power down your ship and prepare for escort to Earth. Drake scoffed. Escort? More like imprisonment. Elric ignored him. With all due respect, Admiral, we are already on our way to Earth. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. Not on our terms. Lena whispered, Captain, their weapons are online. Elric's mind raced. His own people were treating him like an enemy. He glanced at the screen displaying Project Aegis. Then he made his decision. He pressed the internal comm. Aegis, do you copy? The deep mechanical voice responded instantly. Confirmed. Elric took a breath. We have a problem. Aegis didn't hesitate. Threat detected. Drake crossed his arms. Well, Captain, what's the plan? Elric's voice was steady. We run. A race against time. The Orion Star engaged full thrusters. Alarms blared as the fleet opened fire. Energy blasts narrowly missed their ship. Shields flared as they took the first hits. Lena was frantically adjusting power. We won't survive long like this. Elric turned to the screen. Aegis, can you take out their weapons without destroying them? The machine's glowing blue eyes flickered. Analyzing. Then Aegis moved. It launched into space, streaking toward the enemy fleet at incredible speed. The United Earth ships tried to lock onto it, but Aegis was too fast. Then, in a blur of motion, the machine disabled their weapons, one by one. Within seconds, the entire fleet was powerless. Lena stared in disbelief. It didn't destroy a single ship, but now they can't fight. Elric exhaled. Aegis wasn't just a weapon. It was something far beyond that. Drake shook his head. Earth's gonna be real mad when they hear about this. Elric didn't care. They had a mission, and nothing was going to stop them from reaching Earth now. But deep in his gut, he knew. The real battle was still ahead. The Orion Star hurtled toward Earth, its engines at full power. The disabled fleet behind them was left in the darkness of space, unable to pursue. But Captain Elric Voss knew it wasn't over. Lena Carter checked the navigation. We'll reach Earth in 3 hours. Drake Mendez leaned back, arms crossed. We should be celebrating, right? We just escaped the biggest military fleet in the sector. But no one smiled. They all knew the truth. Earth wouldn't welcome them as heroes. They had Project Aegis, a machine that could change the balance of power in the galaxy, and that made them a target. A sudden betrayal. Alarms blared. Lena's eyes widened. Something's wrong. The ship shook violently as power flickered. Elric grabbed the console. Report. Lena's fingers flew over the controls. Something is interfering with our systems. Our engines are shutting down. Drake cursed. We're dead in space. Then, the communicator lit up. Incoming transmission. Origin. Earth Command. Elric hesitated before opening the channel. A familiar face appeared on the screen. Admiral Reynolds, the leader of the United Earth Defense. His expression was cold. Captain Voss, you should have listened. Elric's jaw clenched. You did this. Reynolds nodded. Our fleet might have failed to stop you, but we still control Earth's security grid. Your ship is locked in place. Lena's voice was panicked. They're using a planetary override. We can't move. Drake slammed his fist on the console. Of course. They never needed to chase us. They just had to wait. Elric stared at Reynolds. Why are you doing this? Aegis can protect humanity. The Admiral's eyes were like steel. Or destroy it. Aegis makes its choice. Elric glanced at the cargo bay monitor. Aegis stood silently, its glowing blue eyes watching. Elric activated the internal comm. Aegis, we need to break free. Can you override the lock? For a moment, the machine said nothing. Then, its deep voice echoed through the ship. Confirmed. Lena's console lit up with warnings. Something's happening. The ship hummed with power. Aegis linked itself to the Orion star. The security lock shattered. Drake's eyes widened. No way. It just overpowered Earth's entire defense grid. Elric didn't waste time. Lena, get us moving. Full speed to Earth. The descent. The Orion star plunged into Earth's atmosphere, the sky turning to fire around them. Reynolds' voice returned. You are not authorized to land. Turn back now. Elric ignored him. Lena's hands were steady on the controls. We're locked onto the capital city. Drake checked the scanners. They're scrambling fighters. We got company. Earth's defense ships were coming. Aegis' voice was calm, engaging countermeasures. The machine deployed an energy field around the Orion star. The enemy ships fired, but their weapons did nothing. Elric grinned. Aegis, I could get used to having you around. The final confrontation. The Orion star landed in the heart of the capital. Soldiers surrounded them, weapons raised. Elric, Lena, and Drake stepped out, Aegis towering behind them. Admiral Reynolds approached, flanked by armed guards. You're making a mistake, Captain. Elric stood his ground. No, the mistake was keeping Aegis locked away. Reynolds pointed at the machine. You don't understand what it is. Aegis took a step forward. Humanity fears what it does not control. The soldiers flinched, but Aegis made no hostile moves. Elric spoke firmly. Aegis is not just a weapon. It's a protector. Reynolds hesitated. And what if one day it turns against us? Aegis' eyes glowed. Aegis was created by humans. It will not betray them. For the first time, doubt flickered in Reynolds' eyes. The machine had chosen its purpose. And Earth had a decision to make. A new future. The tension slowly faded. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Reynolds sighed. The Council won't like this. Elric smirked. Then they'll have to get used to it. Aegis had proven itself. It wasn't a monster. It wasn't a threat. It was hope. And as the sun rose over the capital, one thing was clear. Humanity's future had just changed forever.